Welcome back to another episode of Life Success Tools. I'm Jonathan Logan, your host, and today we're speaking with Hanna Kok. She's a South African coach, speaker, author, kinesiologist, and more. Her passion lies in helping people with their self-esteem, their health, their relationships, and guiding them from just simply surviving in this wild and crazy world to actually thriving. So welcome, Hanna. It's a delight to have you on today. I'm really excited to learn from you and to hear all about your origin story, your passion for helping people, and how you do it, and what it looks like for people when they work with you and they go through that transformational process that you outline in your book. And speaking of which, she has a fabulous new book. It's called Bitter or Better, and we'll post that up for you so you have a link to that. It's a guide to happily ever after living. And if there's a better line than that, I don't know. I think everybody will sign up for happy ever after living. So welcome, Hanna. It's a delight to have you here today. Super excited. And let's jump right in. Did I capture everything that you think captures you?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got everything there, and let's dive in.
Let's dive in. Great. So, I find that most people who produce the kind of work that you produce and have the quality of coaching that you have usually themselves gone through some kind of a story, an origin story, where they have a transformation and transmutation, as it were. And I got a hint of that from the Bitter to Better. So maybe you could just tell people who don't know you yet a little about you and how you came to create this work.
Well, I'm from the Netherlands originally, just in case you're wondering what my accent is. And in 1984, I left to the Netherlands. I was trained as a teacher, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue that. And so I wanted to explore the world, and I ended up in a little country called Lesotho. Now, most people never heard of it. I had never heard of it until somebody said you can possibly go there. But it's a little country landlocked in South Africa. If you look at the South African map, there's always a little pimple in the middle or a bit on the side. And this is a mountain kingdom called Lesotho. And I ended up going for 6 months in 1984, ended up staying 12 years. And then from there, I moved to South Africa. So I've been in this area now. I would say it's been a long 6 months. It's 40 years plus now. So why did I stay? Well, you know how it goes. You follow the heart. I met my husband there. And you know what? I always had the feeling like, I had a boyfriend at the time in the Netherlands, but I thought I'm going to meet somebody else. And then I met this guy from Scottish descent. And it was like, oh, it was you I had to travel half the world for, And so we moved from a little town into a remote village called Mparani. And this village was so remote, we did not have telephone, not even cell phones when they came out many years later. So we only had radio contact with the base station, and we had 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the afternoon when the air layers were right that we could get through. Then later we did also have like a radio patch where we had to bounce a radio signal off a mountain going to another town. There was a radio connected to a phone, and then we could phone the outside world. But we had to say over because it was like a one-way radio. We also did not have running water other than what we organized. So there was no municipal services. The running water we had to organize ourselves. So we had a 1.5 kilometer pipeline from the river coming to our house. As I said, no telephone, no TV. We had a bit of radio. That was it. No refuge collection. And for electricity, we had a generator, but later we installed solar. So by 1994, we had this little shop that we had running with point of sale of solar with computers, scanners, and printers. And we all had set it up ourselves. And we had to write software ourselves. Well, we used a specific language. So not straight code, but we had to make it Africa proof, because in those days, people had no computer training, and especially
Right.
not people living in a village. So we
Right.
had to make the software super user friendly and robust.
Wow.
Yeah, so that is, and then the last thing to add to give you an idea of how remote it was, the car park, so to speak, was filled with horses and donkeys. People would come from the mountains on their horses and donkeys to the shop to come and buy whatever they needed. And then they would go home with a 50 kilogram maize meal bag on their horse, or if there was a funeral, then they came and buy a coffin from us, because we sold everything from napkins to coffins and what you need in between.
Wow. Wow. That's quite an outpost.
That was an outpost. Definitely, that was an outpost. And so we moved to this family trading station in the outpost, and then we had a child after 10 years. Eventually, I managed to convince my husband, no, I think it is a good idea to have a child. So by 1996, our child was like just over a year.
Mm.
And then one night there was an armed robbery, and they lifted, well, they came to the house. Well, we lived in rondavels. Do you know what a rondavel is? Like these round huts.
Hmm. Yes.
And we'd moved out of the colonial house. We were living in these rondavels, and I was living in the one, sleeping in the one, and my husband was sleeping in the other, because the baby had been keeping him awake. And so one night I wake up with thinking fireworks. I'm going like, no, they don't do fireworks here.
Okay.
And then I heard there was a hand grenade had gone off at the police station, and then they were outside our house saying they were police, open up. And I, in my head, already thought, if that is going to happen to me, I'm going to just calmly open up, and I speak a bit of the local language. But as I got up to open the door, my child started to cry, and I was still breastfeeding him. So I quickly went back to bed to nurse him to make sure he was quiet. And then I heard my husband open up, and then I could hear the way he spoke to them, something was wrong.
Right.
And he always said, if anything happens, as long as they don't have the two of you, I'll be okay.
Right.
And so they took him to the shop that was on the compound, and I started to pray, like
Mm.
pray, like putting a minister out of a job. I don't know, but I put him in the light. I whatever I could think of.
Right.
But you know, minutes feel like hours,
Mm.
and I got scared, because like this is taking very long. And then as I got scared, shortly after that, I heard gunfire.
Mm.
And then I waited and waited to hear if my husband would come back, but he didn't.
Mm.
And so after I made sure nobody was around anymore, so I waited a bit longer to make sure that if there was anybody there, they could run away, because it's not for me to confront them.
Right.
And then I went to the shop, and I found my husband there, and he was indeed shot.
Mm.
And the whole thing was like, okay, what do you do now with, with your life? But the thing was, we were already not wanting to do the shop anymore.
Right. Right.
So at his funeral, I said, I'm going to make this a really good thing that happened to us. And I know it sounds really bad, but I meant to say was, we had been wanting to start personal development work, maybe start a retreat center, but we got scared and we never got to do it. And now, because of safety reasons, I could leave now, because this had been a family business over 100 years. So it was like, oh, we can't leave. We have to do this, and the community, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, no, I cannot stay here with a young child. I also don't want to stay here with a young child. It's so lonely as well. So that is when I decided, now I'm going to do this work, because we've been talking about why are we making a living if we could be making a life?
Mm.
And I said, now it's time to make a life.
Mm.
And that's where I started to turn things around. Now, to add, and this is where also the book title comes from, was they knew were the perpetrators.
Mhm.
They knew. And later we also heard it could have been even an organized hit
Mm.
from surrounding shopkeepers who were jealous of the success we had.
Mm.
And I had to decide, what I'm going to do. I'm going to get bitter and angry because there's no justice and nobody's being arrested or put into jail. But if I allow that to happen, then I'm going to destroy my life as well because I'm going to be consumed by the anger.
Yes.
And then my poor son would have lost both parents that night.
Right.
And I was so fortunate that before this happened, there were two major events that helped me to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
One was I had learned about the importance of forgiveness before it happened.
Mm.
That forgiveness is for me, not for the other person.
Right.
And it's to make sure that I'm not going to get stuck into the situation and like, why? Then I also, before this happened, met a lady and she had lost her daughter due to a viral infection,
Oh.
but overnight. So she'd gone for the weekend, came home Sunday, Monday morning, she was dead. And so that was such a shock. And 3 years later, this mother still was going like, oh, why is this happening? And
Mm.
she was
Mm.
so stuck. So
Mm.
I knew I had to forgive and definitely not ask the question why, but
Right.
rather ask what now, where to from here.
Right. Wow. That's
And
great.
that is how I turned things around. And that is when I decided, okay, well, I had been trained already while I was living there in kinesiology, in educational kinesiology or brain gym in a simple way of saying the same thing. And it was like, well, now I'm going to do this because that way I honor what we stood for, what we wanted to do together. I can now do on behalf of both of us.
Wow. I had to say that's a compelling and very just evocative story. And I love what you said about shifting from making a living to making a life, right? Because essentially that's the same shift of moving from bitter to better, from grievance to grace, right? Those kinds of shifts that you talk about. It's the same
Yes,
thing. It's actually a pathway. It's a way of being in the world.
absolutely. And the thing is, and even nowadays, we so focused on making a living and we are selling our soul in the process. I I love working with the mirror principle, right? And then
Mm.
looking also at events in the world, how it mirrors what's going on inside of us. Now, a
Yes.
big event now is this whole thing, what is happening in Iran with the
Mhm.
people rising and the government trying to suppress them. I'm going, okay, that's happening out there. So how does that play out inside of me?
Right. Right.
And then I'm going like, well, I have a part in me that wants to be free and I want to follow what that divine guidance is telling me where to go. And then I have my ego side, which is then the government side telling you,
Mhm.
you have to do this and you have to earn money and these are the techniques you must use and you have to be so successful. And if you're not so successful, you're a failure. And so it's just trying to strangle and control my soul who wants to be free.
Yes. Absolutely.
And then if I want to contribute to the peace, if I don't want to see that out there anymore, it's for me to make peace inside of me and set myself free from my ego.
Yes. What I'm hearing here is like it mirrors, no surprise, no pun intended, what's in the book, because it seems like in your personal process of going through, and taking these courses and learning and self-examination and prayer, meditation, all of these things combined together to pull together a huge number of golden nuggets. And that's another thing I would say about the book, is that it's just chock full of these golden nuggets they're wonderful little pins that you can put into things. Maybe you could talk a little bit about the different things. You have love, self-esteem, relationship, forgiveness. These are really essential parts of being human. And it seems like you've really identified a number of these areas where you take people through that process, that journey. Can you talk a little bit about these main issues for you? Because they're probably universal, whether you're in Iran or Holland or Oregon or Lesotho. It's just, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, because it's all part of being human.
Right.
So one of the things is the foundation. What I think is actually the root cause of most of our problems is a lack of self-love. Because when we don't know how to love ourselves, just because, as I'm explaining in the book, is like we love ourselves because we've achieved certain things, or we've got so much money in the bank, or whatever it is. But then I'm observing my husband who has health issues, and I can see how he's struggling with his self-esteem now because he's got nothing to show for it, And then I'm going like, wow, yes, I actually, if I was in his position, I would have the same. And I actually, as a healthy person, have the same as well. If I'm not productive and have these results, then I feel bad about myself. That's when I realized how important it is to love ourselves just because, in other words, for no reason.
Right.
No, just because I decide to. And so releasing trauma is an important part of that. I've got a list in there of how to identify some of our traumas. Now, I am not a person that loves to dig endlessly into traumas. I believe trauma needs to be resolved if you trip over it. And this book gives you ideas of how to identify some of the things, especially even starting from conception to, whatever age we are. And then release it. Forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's all about forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is, let me tell you what is not forgiveness. Forgiveness is not like, I'm so good and morally amazing that I will forgive you, scum of the earth. That's not forgiveness.
Right.
But that's how often we look at it, right?
Okay.
It's also not that I now have to let the person back into my life. I don't have to speak. I don't have to go to the person and ask them for forgiveness. For me, forgiveness is a totally private affair.
Inside job.
It's an inside job. And what happens most importantly is that we have to forgive ourselves. Because in the book, my favorite topic is the mirror. So what does that mean? That when we look at something outside of us that we don't like and look, how does it apply to us? And that is difficult and painful sometimes because our pride gets dented and the ego doesn't like that.
Right.
But if you ask yourself, where do you want to go in life? And what do you want to achieve? And you now, so let me say that if you go back in life and you ask yourself, what do I want to achieve? Well, what do you want to achieve? Let's work with a practical example. What would you like to achieve in the next few years?
Sure. So I have a smoking cessation program online, and my goal is to help 1 million people quit smoking so they can have a healthier, happier life.
Right.
Okay.
So now think of a person that irritates you.
Okay.
Now let's do an easier one first. Who inspires? What type of person, what qualities do you see in a person that inspires you?
Someone who's a learner, kind, wants to make a difference for other people, but also takes good care of himself.
Right. Well, the little bit that I know, I'm pretty sure that that also is you. You're learning.
Yeah.
You want to inspire other people. You take care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. So what we see in others is in ourselves, and then when we see it in ourselves, then maybe we want to do more of it if it really inspires us.
Right.
Now, when you do more of that,
Mm-hmm.
being a learner, inspiring others, how much will that support you in reaching that goal that you want to achieve of
Oh,
getting
absolutely. 100%.
right? So it is in your interest to go and look at the qualities that you see in other people,
Mm-hmm.
recognize where you have it, and then build on that.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So it
Okay.
is all it's for our personal gain that we're looking into the mirror. It's not about saying how good we are, it's about showing us the next step.
Okay. Nice.
So now look at somebody or the behavior or qualities in a person you dislike.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
If you just, if are you willing to share that with me? What
Sure.
you
Sure.
do?
I'm I'm not a fan of Vladimir Putin. I'm not a fan of his oppressive, egoistic machismo, of his oppression of others, of his using his power for his own aggrandizement rather than power to make a difference.
Right.
Yeah, those kinds
So
of things.
he's coming from ego and oppressing people. Now, where do you do that? Towards yourself. Where
Oh,
do
to
you
use.
oppress
Yeah.
parts of you that you
Right.
don't, like I said right in the beginning with this Iran story?
Right.
Where do you like trying to force yourself maybe into a mold or something like that? You don't allow yourself to really flow with something.
Right. Right. Yeah. I can see that. I can see where I don't take as good a care of my health as I might because I'm pushing too hard in another area. So I'm out of balance.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're pushing, you're trying to force things like he's trying to force things.
Right. Yes.
What will happen if you would stop doing that? If you would allow things to flow more and not force it, how will that support your goal?
Well, I think I'd have more balance and I'd have more energy to do my goal.
Right. So even though it's hard to admit that you have similar qualities to the person you dislike,
Right.
it is showing you a vital key of
Yeah. It's a
how
gift.
important it is to actually take better care of yourself and so that you have more energy to do what you want to do instead of
Yes.
forcing yourself there and not having enough time to take care of you.
That's a great exercise. I'm going to steal that for my own personal use.
But that you got the book; it's all in there. It's, I
Yeah.
mean, you'll see every time I'll say it's time to look into that lovely mirror,
Yes.
because that mirror points. It's painful because we now. I used to. Do you know lemon meringue? Lemon
Yes.
meringue pie.
Yeah. Yes.
I used to compare this process to the lemon meringue pie,
Okay.
because the top is all fluffy. And so when your person goes and tells me about what they dislike at the person, they go and they fluff up and they're like, this person is so bad because they're doing this and that. And then when they look in the mirror and then they recognize, oh, I do the
Yeah.
same, it's like sweet and sour.
Right. Right.
And you can see the person deflate a bit on the spot
The
because
meringue
like
goes down.
but you hit the sweet and sour part, which is not fluffy,
Right.
right? And you have a bit of a crust to work. But the taste, all in all, is brilliant because this tool, I just always say, if you're stuck, you don't know what to do next, go and analyze somebody that irritates you, and you'll know what inner work you need to do.
Wow. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really great. I love that. And I think everybody that hears this can use it themselves.
Exactly. Exactly. That is for me the most important message, because now if you focus on the external and wanting to change the external,
Right.
that is a recipe for bitterness, because we
Sure.
cannot change the external. But when you start looking in the mirror and you say, hey, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? That is when you get better. And that is when you can move forward. You don't get stuck. You can get, or you might get stuck for a bit,
Sure.
swamped with your emotions. Then there are tools in there how to just work through the emotion, not suppress it, but release it,
Yes.
feel it and release it.
Feel it and release it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really beautiful.
So,
And it ties into what you say in the book about, the first relationship you're going to have with you in terms of interpersonal relationships is with yourself, right? You've got to have your spiritual relationship dialed in and with yourself before you're really able to have the full relationship with someone else and have that respect and that love and everything else. You say more
yeah,
about
I compare it a bit. Love is a survival need, like food, air,
that?
and water, and shelter.
Yes.
And it's like with food. If you can grow your own food, then you're not too worried about food, because you always have enough food. And so now I don't have to, I was going to say something rude, so let me not say it like that, but you don't have to people please and do things like that just to get people to feed you.
Right.
Or in this case, with love, if you have inner love,
Hmm.
love for yourself and divine love, then the need for love is met. And then your relationships with other people are a bonus. You get a bit more love, that's great, but you're not dependent on it. And so then you can be free to be you and to listen to that guidance and hear what is it for you? Why are you here? What is for you to do here?
Right.
And then you can really be of service,
Mm.
you know.
Mm.
But that can only happen if you feel good enough inside of you, because that your love needs are met. Otherwise, you have to sell your soul for love,
Right.
like
Right.
in whatever else. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think that relates to you talk about self-respect and self-esteem. And also, if one doesn't have self-respect and self-esteem, you can't really respect your partner. You're not really going to have that respect because you don't have it for yourself.
And worse, they won't have respect for you either. And the key, what I have found, because I've also worked quite a bit with people in abusive relationships,
Hmm.
that when they develop self-esteem and self-respect, the abuse stops naturally. They don't even have to get out of the relationship in most
Mm.
cases.
Mm. Wow.
And there's physical abuse, sexual abuse, stop. Of
Wow.
course, verbal abuse as well. But
Say,
if,
say, say more about that because I think what I've seen in a lot of couples and what's going on in a lot of relationships, especially with the stress, under stress, people revert to, lower ego, lower self-respect, lower self-esteem, finding all these, as you talk about, the addictive things that people do. These are cause and effect, right? So maybe talk more about how they can think more about self-respect and self-esteem and how that interplays with the world that they live in.
well, first of all, just start listening how you speak to yourself. I mean, just the other day, and I've written a book about it, but boy, I'm still on this journey, maybe I will catch myself out doing it, but I was still doing it. Like it was not maybe I got out of the wrong side of the bed in the morning, and then I look in the mirror and go like, oh, look at those wrinkles, I'm really showing my age there. And oh, that hair, oh, I better get a haircut. I did get a haircut since then, because it really looked like a floor mop. And then, with your work, oh man, you could do so much better. It's like, look at you. If you listen how we pull ourselves down the whole day, every day,
Right.
and then we get upset when somebody gives us, is a little bit critical of us. Because we get upset because we do 10 times worse. I had a really funny thing with my son one day. he was a long time ago, he was little and he was doing math homework and he was struggling and he going like, oh, I'm so stupid, so stupid.
Mm.
And I'm going like, yeah, you're so stupid. And he got angry, but I said it on purpose to show him what he was doing, right?
Right.
And he was like, I'm not stupid. I said, but you were just telling yourself all the time how stupid you are. And if you're saying it, surely I can say it too. And that's when he realized that's what he'd been doing.
Right.
Now, when we are in an environment, even if you have this narcissistic, because this narcissism is now one of those fads. No, fads is, I'm sure it's real for the person when they're in it. But when we change the way we talk to ourselves, when we start talking to ourselves like we would do to a young child,
Yes.
and we forgive ourselves for the mistakes we make, and that it's okay that we're not perfect, and it's okay when we're all emotional and we don't have it all together. When we can be kind to ourselves like that,
Yes.
then that is what we'll get back from the other person.
Right.
Or we don't hear the criticism because we just, how can I say, we'll hear the pain that they are experiencing and they're lashing out at us because they are in pain.
Right.
Course of Miracles says everything is an act of love or a cry for love.
Yes.
And when we love ourselves, we can hear the cry for love instead of seeing it as a personal attack.
Yes. One of my teachers said, if someone says something to you that's not nice, the only way it can affect you is if you have a broken place for it to land, a hook. If you've done inner work about it and you resolved it, it's a smooth surface. There's no place for it to hook into you.
Yeah,
right?
There's no buttons to push. However you say it, no hook, no button, remove the button. And then it's like, okay, well, and then they have to do something else because it's not working anymore. And I have seen, like one client was in an abusive, verbal abusive, I'm not sure physically abusive. The husband was drinking. She had one session with me, really got it, and turned the whole relationship around.
Right. Yes.
By just removing the buttons one by one. Yeah.
That's powerful. And I think it's also, one of the things we know in psychology is that once someone knows it's possible, it allows them to go there. If they don't think it's possible, right? If you didn't think that flying was possible, you'd never make an airplane, right? Or you'd never even call up and look for an airplane. But what we know is that these things, these transformations that you're talking about are not only possible, millions of people can go through them and heal and transform and become self-loving and have self-esteem and have better relationships. And it's just like flipping on a light switch. You can search all over the wall, but until you find the right switch or the right button, the light doesn't come on. And so you're helping people find the light switch. It's up to them to turn it on, but you're helping them find the light switch.
And recognize where to look. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. It's like that old saying, there's a man out by a streetlight at night looking around and someone walks by and says, what are you doing? Looking for my keys. Like, well, where did you drop them? He said, inside the house, but the lights aren't on in there.
Yeah, it's too dark there to find it. I know that it just shows, but you know what? This is exactly what is happening. I knew the story, but I'm glad you're bringing it up again because what is happening is we have a problem in our life and we drop the key inside in the dark, but we're looking outside where it's light. It's like in life, I have a problem and now I'm trying to fix it by changing my outside.
Right.
But all I have to do is go inside and change it there. And then automatically my outside world changes. Have you heard of the Dartmouth experiment?
I'm not sure which one.
The one on the women going into a interview with a scar on their face.
No.
Okay, so they said to these women, we're going to make us, with makeup, we're going to create a scar on your face, and then you're going to go for this job interview, and we want you to observe how much you feel discriminated against because of your disfigurement,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
right? And then just before they walked in, they said, okay, we just need to patch up the scar. It needs a bit of patch up, but actually they removed it. So
Oh,
now these women are going into the interview thinking they are disfigured or they look disfigured, but they're not. And then they come back and say, okay, what do you notice? And most of them say, yeah, they were discriminating there and they were looking at my scar there. But we see only what we believe, expect.
right.
There's some really interesting statistics on that. I'm sure you've heard they say, oh, we only use 5% of our brain, if luck, if that, right?
Right. Right.
That is on the output side.
Mm.
But on the input, the stats are completely different. We consciously can absorb about, say, 40 pieces of information per second.
Okay.
How much do you think we absorb in that same second on a subconscious level?
A radical amount more. I wouldn't know how to put a number on it. What's the number?
They say anything between 11 and 40 million. So let's say 11 million. Okay, let's be conservative. That would be then equivalent of every piece of information we absorb consciously. Our subconscious mind absorbs 275,000 pieces of information. Okay, that doesn't mean much. But to give you an idea, this book is 350 pages. Okay,
Right.
3 of those books would make then just over 1,000 pages.
Right.
So our subconscious mind can absorb 3 books.
Right.
And you know how much we become conscious of those 3 books per second? 1 word.
Wow. Wow.
So
Hanna, that's crazy. That's
do we
wild.
get it?
Yeah.
Huh?
Right. Right.
Even if you might have 1 book and you only get 1 word, you still have no idea what the content of the word is, what the book is about.
Right. Wow.
Unless maybe you read the word mirror, then you get some sort of idea. But you could even totally think of something else. But that shows you there is so much information out there. It's like the internet. There's so much information out there. And then we have to filter it down. And what creates the filter? Well, in our body is the RAS. With the algorithms, is it with the internet? And it's based on what we believe,
Right.
what we're focusing on, what we are expecting. Those are the things that shape us.
Yes.
So we are so inaccurate in our observations, and we swear by we are right. 1 word per 1 word per 1,000-page book. That's how accurate we are in observing the information.
Wow. That's mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing. Yeah. Okay, the next second we'll get another word, but the book is also maybe slightly different. But it just shows you, if we realize maybe things are not the way we think it is.
Yes. That's right.
And if I start changing my filter by changing a critical self-judgment to a kinder way of looking at myself, I will all of a sudden realize how many kind people there are around me.
Right.
But before that, I was filtering it out because it didn't fit my paradigm of like, this is a hard, critical dog-eat-dog world.
Right.
For example.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's fascinating because I've done a lot of work with visualization for about 25 years, and helping people do visualizations about money or prosperity or things like that. And I will often get calls and say, I was just at the store and I found a dollar bill as I walked out of the store on the ground, and it was just blowing around the street. There were people everywhere and nobody picked it up, but I saw it. And they've done studies to show that if you take people in a very negative mindset, they split the group in half, the most negative and the most positive, and they let the middle section go. Then they have them walk down an alleyway between buildings down to another door for an interview that they're getting paid for. And they would sprinkle here and there a little bit of money. The people who were the most positive saw the money the greatest amount of time. The people who were negative, most of them didn't even see any of the money. And it's just the mindset, perspective.
Wow.
What was it? Perspective organizes experience. Like you said, that filter, that incoming filter is telling us it's really actually mirroring the interior mind rather than what's actually going on out in the world.
And it could even be that it's not mirroring, it could be projecting. So maybe we're just walking around with one of those masks, because if you think of it, this is just a vibrational soup around us of all sorts of energy floating around, and we are interpreting it with our senses.
Yes.
But maybe we're projecting it. I don't know. We definitely don't know how that world is not as real as we think it is.
Right. We're simulating most of it in our imagination here. So when you have your clients coming to you and all of your coaching clients and people in the different ways, they're probably all at some level of awareness about it or not. How do you help people? What would you tell people today to become more aware of that differential? Is there an exercise they can do? Is there something that just just knowing the light switch is somewhere in the room, of course, is a key, but what would you say? Is there something you can share with that?
Well, I think a good place to start is listening to yourself, how you talk to yourself.
Yeah.
And look for ways to be kinder to yourself. And one way to do that is start being kinder to others.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we can, the best thing to do is we learn through teaching. That's the best way of learning. So when we start realizing, oh, that person is so harsh, maybe let's say something nice to them, then we also will start becoming kinder to ourselves. So it's a two-way thing, kind to ourselves and kind to others. Those two together will help us
I like
to
that.
be more kind to
I like
ourselves.
that. I was once given an exercise, Hanna, where the fellow said, I want you to think of 3 times where someone did something that you didn't like they cut you off in traffic, or they did something, whatever it is. Said, now what I want you to do is make up a story about why they did it that justifies it. Oh, he was late for work and his boss, because he helped someone with their groceries at the store, and his boss said, if you're late, I'm firing you. So he was rushing to work. That's why he cut in front of you, because he really didn't want to get fired, because he's the one that pays for all the family and he's got 2 sick children. You make up a story that justifies it. And then he says, now which one is real? The one that you made up first about how a bad guy this guy is for cutting in front of you and what a jerk he is, or the fact that he was late for work and just didn't want to lose his job? And the fact is, we don't know. We made the whole thing up.
Absolutely. Now, another thing that a person can do to change their life around, and this is one of the kindest things you can do for yourself, is to give yourself permission to feel what you're feeling. And there's an exercise that I do, I also describe it in the book, is that you put your fingers on your forehead.
Okay.
And these are called the positive points, or the emotional stress release points. Now, think of something that upsets you. Have you got something that is upsetting for you?
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Now give yourself permission to feel the feeling and say, it's okay that I feel like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay that I didn't have it all together.
Mm-hmm.
I forgive myself for feeling that way.
Okay.
And what happens to the feeling when you sit with it?
It loses its charge. It keeps its importance, but it loses the charge.
What do you mean with it keeps its importance?
I was thinking about the poor students being killed in Iran from protesting, and it makes me upset. And so my emotions aren't disturbed, but I still have the intention of that's incorrect, it's wrong, it's not
right. So it's not like, oh, everything is all right, I'm just going to accept everything.
No. It doesn't emotions don't overwhelm me anymore.
Exactly. And the thing is, when you are emotionally overwhelmed, your brain goes into survival mode, and you lose your ability for this higher wisdom to to be active, and you have a lesser chance of finding a solution to do something about it, whatever that it is.
Right.
And so when you calm yourself down, you calm your nervous system down, you are more likely to make a contribution to resolve the conflict than if you stay upset.
Right.
Then you become part of the problem.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. And one of the things I was thinking about is you probably hear from your clients all the time about you've given them an exercise, you've had them go do something, they've come to a session with you, they've gone home and they've tried it with their husband or their wife or what have you, or just with themselves. Do you have any kind of like recent testimonials or anything like that that you could share with us? Or
Yeah, and one of the things is that in the session we do the work. So it's not like you're going home with endless homework. We
right.
make the shift in the session, and then you go with that home, but it's not like you have endless homework. So I've got this one client, she just wrote me a testimonial just the other day, it's like a few days ago, and she said, I just wanted to say thanks. In all my years of therapy, I've never experienced the growth in confidence and self-worth and self-esteem and self-determination that I have with you. It has also been the hardest work I have done, because remember, we have to look at ourselves and the ego doesn't like that. And there were times I wanted to quit and never come back because it did hurt a lot sometimes, because the ego got hurt, right?
Right.
But I am glad I've stuck it out, and I'm so excited to actually build a future now that I feel my foundations are deeper and stronger. And she was in a really desperate situation, and she's turned her life around completely. And we did that with group coaching.
Ah,
So I'm immensely grateful to have you in my life.
oh, that is wonderful. I think that's such an endorsement. I'm so excited. That's beautiful. That's just beautiful. Wow. Well, Hanna, this has just been amazing. I'm so grateful to have your time. I know you're very busy and probably on to your next book, but I always have two questions that I'd like to ask. And one is, what do you think the world needs more of now? And with everything that's going on, what does the world need more of?
The thing that people need to have more of is stop blaming the outside
Mm.
and trying to change the outside. The solution lies in changing ourselves. Then we create inner peace, and from inner peace, we create world peace. Being it, we create inner peace, peace in our families, etc. But stop looking outside, look inside, look into the mirror, use the mirror to guide you what to do next.
Wow.
And forgive yourself in the process. Very important. It's no big deal when you make mistakes.
Yeah. We're humans. It's kind of what we do, is make mistakes along the way, right?
We're very messy, and we're all messy, so it's okay.
I can tell you how many times it took me to learn to parallel park. A long time.
I don't even do it anymore. where I live, I don't have to. So it's
Oh, wow. Okay. Sounds like you live in a happy place. Well, let's close with this. If you could, with everything that's going on in the world, and there is a lot, and people are feeling it, and there's reasons to feel it and have emotions about it. If you could just break into every TV station, podcast, radio station, or just group of people having coffee and say, hey, I just want to say this one thing, what message would you want to give the world today?
Well, that is, again, to come back to what I just said of what you see out there is a mirror from within. And like we started right in the beginning, like when you look at that conflict in Iran where people get killed by the government, look at how we oppress ourselves and set ourselves free. Because if we change ourselves, we change the collective consciousness, and then we get to see different things. Then there is no room for oppressive governments.
Wow. So, Hanna, it's been great having you today and hearing from you and learning from you. Thank you so much. Where can people find you, and what else can you tell us about what people can look for on your website?
The easiest to go to bitterorbetteridecide.com. When you go to that website, there's a gift that I have for you. It's like a meditation to create that inner peace. It's one of the visualizations that is also in the book. You can get the first 3 chapters of the book for free. And it will also show you where you can get the book on Amazon, on Kindle. And by the time this goes live, I hope my Audible is also live. Then the link will be there. And for South Africans, there's a special link where to order it.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I'll be sure to put all of that also down in the notes below so folks don't have to try and type everything out very quickly. It'll all be in the show notes. Thanks again. Delighted to have you and really appreciate all the gems you dropped on us today.
Thank you.